Okay. So a warm welcome to everyone. My name is Sonja, and I'm Danish, living here in Copenhagen. And I'm a teacher and coordinator of the Brahma Kumaris Meditation Center here. And Brahma Kumaris Meditation School, we have a delegation of 10 people for COP15 and for Klima Forum. And these are two of our guests. I will introduce them and have some questions to them about mind and matter. And then maybe you have some questions. And we will do a few reflections, meditations along the way. And I hope that's okay with you. And actually, we could start with one just to relax a bit and to be present in this room. There are many things to see and many appointments and many people. So let's bring our thoughts into this room together. So if everyone sit comfortably and take a few deep breaths. And make sure the whole body is relaxed. Neck and shoulders and we relax the mind by taking the thoughts into this room and accepting the choice I did of coming here and staying here for a while. And everything else can wait. And I can create a silent space within. I listen to myself. As a preparation to listen to others in a while. And we send some peaceful thoughts to the environment, to the Mother Earth. And to all people who are working on the matter, to the negotiators and the activists. And prepare for a constructive day. Then I take a deep breath and prepare to bring my mind back to this room. And then it's time to open the eyes and come back. Thank you. On my left-hand side here, I have Sister Jayanti, originally from India and living in London for many, many years. And she started meditation when she was 19, over 40 years ago. And she's been practicing daily meditation since then. She's very experienced in mind and how to turn the thoughts within how to experiment with your thoughts and different levels of energy. Sister Jayanti here, she's the European Director of Brahma Kumaris, and she's the main representative to UN in Geneva. And she's traveling constantly, inspiring, I think it's up to millions of people now through radio, television, and talks around the world on this matter, on this meditation, and the topics related to values and personal transformation and transformation of the society. And on my right-hand side, I have Jayanti and Golo Pilz. We actually call him Golo. It's a bit a foreign name to us, maybe, but Golo here, he's from Germany originally, but he's now living in the Brahma Kumaris headquarters in India. That's in the mountains of Rajasthan, in a remote area. And Golo has been the project manager of solar energy for Brahma Kumaris. So he actually installed solar energy in the headquarters and also in centers all over the India. And it has made Brahma Kumaris the biggest single user of solar energy in India. And I know the capacity is huge. They are cooking lots of food, and I haven't learned the figures by heart, but he will tell you about it. So this is a little short introduction to the two speakers. And I have prepared some questions for them. So I will start with a few questions, and then you join in, or you put your hand up if you want to ask about something. Maybe we should start with letting them tell us what their main message is, actually. So I think I'll start with Sister Jayanti. Is that okay? Yeah.
Good morning and Om Shanti. And it's great to see so many of you here so early in the morning on a freezing day. So thank you for coming and making this your choice. The Brahma Kumaris have been studying and practicing, researching on the subject of the human mind for about 72 years, and myself personally for around 41 years. But I've had the fortune of living with yogis who really have come to the point where you can see that it's mind over matter that they're exercising. But the most important energy that we've forgotten about in this whole situation, when we are talking about energy in so many different ways, is the energy of the human spirit, and in particular the energy of the human mind. And what happens is that when we begin to look inside ourselves, we probably find that there's a mixture of negative and positive energies. And so sometimes we have very negative thoughts about other people, about situations, or about ourselves even. And the feelings that are generated by that negative force of thoughts is not very pleasant. And it sometimes even has an impact on matter, on the body itself. But meditation is a method of, firstly, being able to look inside and see what's going on in our inner world in terms of the mind. But secondly, also to be able to transform the energy of the mind so that we're able to go beyond negative thoughts or even wasteful thoughts or even just mundane, ordinary thoughts, and develop the quality of our thinking and refine it so that we're able to have very pure, very elevated, very noble thoughts. And so this is, I think, what is needed at this moment. When we learn to do this, then it's not just during 10 minutes, 20 minutes for meditation, but having practiced that as my focus for that short time span, then, for example, now, even though I'm very much in the physical dimension, speaking, moving, all of this, but the consciousness is focused on the inner being, the awareness of the the self. And so it ensures that my thoughts remain, my consciousness and awareness remain on an elevated level. And so I'm able to connect with you, not just as strangers, but as beings of light. Not even just as human beings, because even as human beings there's so much difference in the way we look, the way we are dressed and everything else, but connecting of being with being removes all those external barriers, and so the energy that's generated is a very different quality. And so we can see how that awareness of the inner being changes my level of thinking and perception and understanding, but it also impacts the quality of my relationships with others. It also impacts my relationship with the world of nature around me. And where before I thought that nature existed simply for me to take and exploit and aggress, now there's a feeling of respect for nature, recognizing the enormity of the whole system around us that we are part of, and so treating nature with that dignity that it deserves. And it begins from the consciousness, from the mind. And so we see mind as being the last frontier of energy that we haven't yet explored, and it's important to do that now. Thank you.
Thank you. And Golo, what's your main message for this mind and matter topic in this climate change conference?
Good morning to everybody. Well, when I started 20 years ago to look into the area of renewable energy, one of the first lessons I came to know was we need energy efficiency. So we catch the sunlight and we transform the sunlight, and whenever you transform that sunlight, you have to look that the process is at the highest efficiency. Otherwise, at the end, you don't get anything what you can make use of it. So I looked into this process, and parallel 25 years ago, I joined the Brahma Kumaris and learned about the power of mind, and that similarly, you have to be very efficient in your mind. It means you should not leak out energy, because in solar you want to do something with that energy, similar with the power of your mind. So when I thought today on the subject of this seminar or workshop here, I thought also in the past of humanity, and mind versus matter was always one of the big questions in humanity, which has driven many philosophical discourses, and many religious scriptures are entirely dealing with that subject. And it was always the big question, what was first? Was matter first, and mind has evolved out of matter, which is the current thought of the day as on nowadays in our scientific world? Or was there first the mind, and this world is a creation of this mind? Some of you may have seen the film Matrix, which is a similar subject. The hero is asked by the other gentleman, you take the green pill and you will know reality, or you will take the red pill and you will stay in the illusion. So also here in the Climate Forum, it is the big question, can we solve the crisis of the world only by technology and by scientifically approved mechanisms? Or do we have to have a holistic approach towards this crisis? Do we have an energy crisis, a technical crisis, or do we have a crisis also of our consciousness? And as we practice meditations this many years, we have very practical experience how the mind and the power of thoughts really actually influence matter. There have been also many experiments in the 70s and 80s, at universities where they found out mind is really influencing matter. I know of people who are talking to their plants, and some people, they grow vegetables and they have been asked how you grow these vegetables, and they say, I talk every day to my vegetables so they become so big. So it is very important for us to understand that this crisis we have here is also a crisis of our thought pattern, and the environmental pollution which we see is partly also our mental pollution. And here is it where we should think a bit back on the ancient approach which says mind is above matter, and mind has the creative power to really influence and change things also. And that were a bit my thoughts about this subject. This is very, very deep subject, and thousands of things can be said, but in a nutshell, that's a bit what I think. And I think the message for the climate forum also is there. You see, they're all talking, and as on the last days, it became a bit more clear that unity is not there, because mind is not united. Many different interests. So it is good for all of us to send good thoughts and good wishes also to the negotiators, so they may be able to agree on technical terms and conditions. So this is a bit my thoughts on this mind and matter complex.
Thank you. Sister Jayanti, how would you describe the relationship between mind and matter? Is it matter over mind or mind over the matter? Are they equal, or what's their relationship?
I'll give you a short example. When your body is not feeling well, but something happens, you get a telegram or now an email, telegrams of the past, and you get an email telling you that someone you love very much is coming to see you. What does it feel like at that moment? Your mind has been so uplifted that you already feel 1,000 times better, right? So that's instant and direct experience of how mind works over matter. But I'd like to give about 3 different examples, because I believe absolutely, as Golo does, that mind comes first and then you see the impact of matter. But in my own personal experience, 3 different things. You've read of the water crystal photography by a Japanese person. I'm sorry, I've forgotten his name. Okay, thank you. One of his pupils came to Mount Abu recently, and she was there for something we call Peace of Mind retreat. And she's, of course, also trained in this type of photography. And so what she did was to place a glass of water on the table beside the head of our organization, who was going to conduct a meditation at 4 o'clock in the morning, which we do every day, even here in cold Copenhagen. But everybody had gathered and Daddy had come. Daddy is not a male, but a female, a woman. And this lady had photographed the water and got the photographs of the non-formed crystals, things just swirling around. And then after 45 minutes, after the meditation, she again photographed that same water. And of course, as you would imagine, you could see the crystals that had been formed in a very, very beautiful formation. And so just within the space of, I would say, even some minutes, but in this case it was 45 minutes of powerful meditation, the quality of water was transformed. That's one example that I've seen just recently. Another example that I saw some years ago was an example of Chilean photography. I'm sure many of you have heard of this too. And again, the same lady, Dadi Janki, who at that time lived with me in London, and she now lives in India. But we'd gone to Scotland, Edinburgh, and we'd taken an 8-hour car journey to get there. And the conditions were a little bit like this. grey skies and cold winter. And so by the time we arrived in Edinburgh, one would say that she was in her 80s at that time. So she was old, she was having a very bad cough, and she was tired. But there was somebody who wanted to do some Chilean photography with her, and it was difficult for them to find any other time, so that was the only time. So she instantly sat down and they photographed her thumb. And what appeared on the film, on the photograph, was an aura that was perfectly rounded. And that's it, just a thumb, and the aura was a perfect round. And they then said that in the conditions that they did it, even for someone who's a yogi, they would have expected that the condition of the body, the tiredness, the coughing, and all of this would have meant that there would be some dents within this aura. But it was beyond their expectations that even in that condition, it was a perfect aura. And so that was a second very practical proof I saw of mind over matter, and how the power of the mind was able to go beyond the influence of matter and just simply show its perfect aura. And the third, just simply by her age, she is now 93, and she travelled to Melbourne, Australia, and she was there for the Parliament of the World's Religions, spent 10 days on tour, first Sydney, then Melbourne, and very intense time schedule, and came back to India and got straight into a meeting of 20,000 people there. And I mean, I think that that's proof of mind over matter, especially if I tell you that not just her age, but her body's had a dozen different major illnesses. And I won't take your time to list them all now, but some of you have met her, I know, and you know that her cough is still very much with her, but other things too. But I see the proof of mind over matter, but only when the mind is very pure and powerful. Otherwise, for sure, it's matter that takes over and impacts the mind. But when the mind is cleansed and purified and made powerful, then it has supremacy over matter.
Thank you. I will put a question to Golo now and ask how you actually became interested in solar energy, because as a meditation practitioner, Golo was a pioneer in his time within the organization to be interested in these things. And I'm sure not everyone understood you were doing it at that time. So as a pioneer in this field, what has created this interest? And then combined with your spiritual practice?
Well, I was born and raised in Germany, and in my whole time there, I never experienced a power cut. Putting something in the electric socket and getting electricity out of that socket was something like a natural condition. I could not believe it's not going to happen or it's not possible. Same with water or any supplies. Everything was perfectly organized. And when I came first to India, I first time experienced power cuts. And sometimes there are more smart things. They are not power cuts, they're called brownouts, when the voltage drops a bit further but does not really go away. Or there are phase reversals, which are equally bad. Suddenly power reverses its polarity. And constant water shortages. Sometimes the petrol pump had diesel, sometimes the petrol pump had not diesel. And this was a shocking revelation for me. This was in 1984. I came first time to India. And on the other side, I saw the abundance of the sun there. And I started thinking, if we not can make use of that sun. As a spiritual person, we're also inclined to live in harmony with nature and make use of the nature. And so Germany is one of the pioneering countries in the area of renewable energies, despite we have a bit more sunshine than Denmark, but not much more. We only have half of the sunshine of India. Despite that, in Germany, many famous companies are located and many famous research institutes. So we contacted some of these research institutes and made a small research project which was called Wind and Solar Energy for Rural Electrification. And with a German architect, I built what you can call a low energy house, which is built in the solar passive architecture, which means right from the beginning, we incorporate all sorts of energy saving technologies, thermal insulation technologies, and we build it out of mud bricks in order to keep the ecological footprint very, very low. So this building, of course, we had to equip with renewable energies. So we brought some small solar plates to India. At that time, we had to import them, and a small wind generator we imported from China. Installed it all, and voila, it was working. And so the Indian yogis, they all came, they looked and they said, "Oh, this is very good." It's working all the time. And even when outside there was a power cut, I could enjoy some light and a bit of electricity. So it worked out, and we had good experience with it. And the feedback in India was also good from our own people, from the yogi side, as well as from the visitors who came there. And in addition, the sun in India is considered a deity. It is called Surya. And to use the sun has also deep spiritual aspects in India, and everybody is positively inclined to use the sun for energy requirement of day-to-day life. So starting this work in India was from all aspects very favorable. And we started rather slow with a small project, and as it was successful, we made a second project, which was a bit bigger, and I had to come more and more often to India. And suddenly I stayed longer in India than in Germany. And then I thought, wow, I should get rid of my flat. So I got rid of my flat, and then after some time I sold my car, and which was a farewell. But and then I cancelled my my insurance and bank account and this and that. And suddenly I started staying more time in India and was very, very busy looking into all energy aspects of our institution. And as of now, we host up to 20,000 people, and we have installed various solar systems there. We cook by solar steam cooking system, which is parabolic dishes which focus the sunlight, and we heat water, boil the water, and the steam which is generated we send into the kitchen, and we are boiling the rice, and we are boiling the lentils and also the vegetables. We cannot fry, that we still have to do by gas, but all the other ordinary cooking activities we can perform. And we can cook 30,000 meals a day, around 30,000 meals a day. And the system runs very satisfactory now since almost 10 years. And so on the other side, we also installed solar photovoltaic systems, which is the blue solar cells which generate electricity, and we installed batteries, inverters, and we installed an emergency system which supplies electricity to all the computers, and in each complex 300 emergency lights. So daily when the power cuts are coming in, which are quite regular, 2 hours, 3 hours, electricity is coming and going, all computers, sound systems, they're running on these solar backup systems, you can say, and we enjoy uninterrupted power supply for the critical loads in the institution. So things got bigger and bigger and bigger, And literally, I'm now living most of the time in India, and I just came for this conference, and when I left India, it was 30 degrees in daytime. And it took me a bit of time to adapt back to good old cold Europe. So introducing renewable energy to the institution in all respects and all aspects was a success story. And we're looking forward actually to install more systems and bigger systems. And we believe it is very important to demonstrate these technologies also to the people. We get many, many visitors from our own organization, as well as we perform many conferences, international conferences and national conferences in India. And if you have followed the negotiations here at the COP, you can see that India is one of the key players in the negotiation, because next to China, it is one of the most populated countries in the world. 1.2 billion people live in India. And everybody believes that India will play a crucial role in future in terms of impact of its industrialization to the ecological footprint of the planet. And so we believe it's very important to demonstrate these technologies and give hope to the people that they can see what actually is possible if there is a goodwill. Thanks.
Golo, what I could hear was that your driving, motivating factor was a little bit to help these yogis in the beginning. And I wondered if we could have a little short meditation break where you maybe guide a few words on how we can start by helping ourselves. So let's have a few minutes of silence in between. And you say a few words about how we can help ourselves. And then we will continue to talk a little bit how we can do to help each other and help. So just a few minutes.
So I'm relaxing and I take a deep breath. My mind gets calm and I'm focusing myself. And I start thinking what I, as an individual, can do to heal the planet, but also to heal myself. So I'm creating positive thoughts of love, of cooperation, and I send these positive thoughts around myself into my own body, make my body very relaxed, and I send these thoughts also to all the politicians and activists, and I can feel how the vibrations going out from myself and spreading into the outer environment. And I also can think a bit what I, on an individual level, can do, on a personal level, how I can change my lifestyle to use the resources around me more efficient in order to make those resources available for all the people on this planet. We all know there are many methods, and basically we all know them, from transport, traveling, use of electricity, use of car, and so on. And I can create the firm thought that I will stay positive and peaceful and creative, so my mind creates such kind of atmosphere that the planet can be healed and all the people on this planet get hope from these vibrations. Om Shanti.
Okay. Thank you. Sister Jayanti, I heard you saying before that we have to go back to treating nature with dignity. Not only have an approach of taking from nature, but it's like treating nature with dignity. How do you do that?
You make sure that you don't keep taking from nature more than you need, but also that you're giving back something to nature. And so in terms of keeping my life as far as possible simple, so that I don't have too many television sets, too many cars, etc., etc., I make sure that I don't need to have external forms of entertainment, but I'm able to generate my own inner happiness and share this with others. That definitely keeps me free from the consumer society and more in touch with myself, and on a level in which I'm cooperating with nature rather than taking continually. The other thing that you can do is have a lifestyle of non-violence. And I think the activists here have been very good at pointing out that vegetarian diet is actually able to not just fulfill my commitment to spirituality and treating nature with dignity and non-violence, but it's also actually contributing in a major way to reduce carbon emissions, so that it reduces it by half, for example. The amount of energy that goes into first raising the grain and then feeding the cattle and then producing the meat and transporting the meat, etc., etc., shift from that to a vegetarian diet and you've saved 50% energy. And I heard that if you move into a vegan diet, which means no dairy produce also, then you're actually reducing the intake, the use of energy by 75%. And so that's huge. I was just reading in today's COP15 paper the whole subject of acidity in the oceans and the sea life that's there. And of course, vegetarian diet means that you don't eat the fishes of the sea, you don't eat the shellfish of the sea, because they were talking about how the shellfish are going to be badly affected first and foremost. But if I follow that vegetarian lifestyle, then definitely there's a big, big improvement. In India, they used to have farming which was absolutely natural, and with the seasons, the rhythm of the seasons, without anything artificially being put into the soil and poisoning the soil. And it used to be farming which was very much subsistence farming, and it was fine, it was enough for all. And then some years ago, they decided to change to cash crop farming, and that has resulted in huge disasters, because then you're dependent on the global markets and the prices of global markets, and when things go up and down in one part of the globe, you're not getting your prices, and it's actually resulted in starvation for a number of people in specifically the area of India called Punjab, the food basket of India. And so we've moved away from respecting nature and what nature can give, but instead it's just a question of taking from nature or aggressing nature. But to work in rhythm with nature and in harmony with nature means that nature actually provides you with great abundance, and it's a relationship of cooperation. You respect nature and nature will give of her best to you, as she has done for several thousands of years. But you aggress nature and you make nature turn into a state of upheaval and violence, and we're seeing the impact of this in all the disasters that happen across the world. So I'm seeing that it's important on a practical level to do all this, and on a spiritual level, sending out good vibrations to nature so that nature can be peaceful, sending out your vibrations of love to nature so that nature can return to harmony again. These are the things that we're very much interested in doing and are engaged in doing.
Thank you. I hear you saying that we should give up our extra car and give up meat and give up entertainment and the television. Is all this debate or conference about giving up, or how would you address that?
I would say that it's rather about discovering the happiness within. It's because why it is I seek the entertainment outside, it's because I don't know how to find that inner happiness which can actually stay with me forever. And it's also something that I can share with everybody that I meet. And so if I'm happy, then when I come into contact with anyone, it'll be the vibrations of happiness that I share. And it's also a question of getting back into a natural way of living, a natural way of being. So what I'm asking is for us to get rid of all the artificial things that we've been acquiring for a very long time and come back to that which is natural.
Thank you. I will put the question to Golo about what the centers in India, the centers outside India can do, because he's been telling a lot about our headquarters and solar energies, and also the centers in India have installed this. But like for us in Copenhagen, we are a small center and we can sign on for climate friendly energy, but what else can we do? But before I want to put that question to Golo, would you like to say something about that? What would...
Mm-hmm. I think simple things like the ones I've suggested already, those are very important contributions that I can make to the climate and the ecological situation. Further, I think that very simple things that we're told to do and then we don't always do them, like separating our refuse, things like this, that can be a contribution too.
And Golo, what would you answer?
I just want to say something, add something what Sister Jayanti said about the lifestyle. Naturally, since the Second World War, we have adopted a philosophy or lifestyle of unlimited consumerism. And it is pretty clear that the resources on the planet do not allow an unlimited growth. In 1972, the Club of Rome published a study which was called The Limits of Growth, and they emphasized that there is an end to unlimited growth if population is also growing, because resources are limited. It's simple arithmetic. And now we see a lot of the problems are coming up because of this equation. population is now crossing in many countries of the world the biological footprint which is actually permissible. For example, in India is using 1.3 Indias at the moment, and I think the world is using 1.7 planets. So the good news is that NASA is looking for another Earth. The bad news is that they probably won't find one nearby. So we have to change our lifestyle, and it should come back a bit to quality and not quantity. So a reporter was asking one environmental activist in an interview how many shoes she has, and she said she has 16 pairs of shoes. He says you actually need only 3 pairs. So it's a bit like that. We are bombarded by advertisement, and everybody tells us buy and buy more, and if the cupboard is full, throw it away and still buy more, and it's not necessary. We should have good quality of products, and we should have a good lifestyle, but it should be quality and not quantity, and then Earth can provide enough for all of us. Now to your question, what can be done? There are instruments available. One is called an energy audit. In an energy audit, you have a specialist which analyzes the energy consumption and the usage of raw materials, for example, in a company which produces something, or in an organization which has a big building, or in a city, and analyzes all aspects of energy generation, transportation, usage, etc., etc. And after making this detailed analysis, he comes up with suggestions. And he also projects what will be the benefits in terms of energy saving, cost saving, what will be the cost of changes involved in that. So we are thinking, part of our discussions, internal discussions in our green team here in Copenhagen is also what type of guidelines for our own institution we can draft up, what is practical, some things in our what is practical in our headquarters, because there it is very big. It might not be practical in our small centers all around. In India we have 4,000 centers. Some of them are rather big, some of them are rather small. So we are looking into a flexible approach, which is also based a bit on the size of the building, of the size of the people, of the size of the gathering. But definitely there are means and ways. Very easily you can save electricity by switching off your computer and your printer and your radio system overnight. I think in Germany the latest calculation is if everybody would switch off the standby, 2 atomic power stations could be shut off. So much is the standby consumption of the computer. Televisions are in standby. Many gadgets are on standby. So for example, by switching off you can save a lot. Then light is another big issue. We just discussed this morning that in Copenhagen is beautifully illuminated in night. And I'm staying in front of a bank building. It's called the Saxo Bank. And morning 3:30 when I get up, I look outside. I don't need any light because there's so much light from this building opposite the street. I almost can read in my room. And every floor and every room is illuminated. I thought, wow, despite financial crisis, Saxo Bank must still have good funds. And for example, here's a big potential. Then so many other areas where we can think of transportation, driving around, also the lifestyle in terms of what food we are eating and how we are eating the food. For example, food which is produced locally has a much smaller ecological footprint than food which is imported. So here also by selection and looking a bit into these aspects, a lot can be done. The consumer has actually a very, very big power. And if we change our behavior, then industry will also change and government will also change, because a lot of pressure is applied. If people change their lifestyle by being aware of the benefits, then automatically industry will offer more such products and will also look into these things. So the consumer has a very, very great power. And awareness can be created, information can be found. You just go in Google and look into energy audit, you look into ecological footprint, and all these ideas, what can be done, they pop up, and whatever is possible, you do it. And we're trying to draft up some policy for our centers, and hopefully something practical will come out soon, and then we also put it up in the web, and you can look time to time on our webpage, and we have a green part of the webpage, and you can see what we are proposing to the centers.
Thank you. You want to ask regarding to this?
I have a comment, but I can wait.
Yeah, okay, thank you. Just because I will open up to questions in a minute or 2 or 3, but I wanted us to have the last meditation before I open up for questions. So I will ask Sister Jayanti to guide a little short meditation break about mind over matter, I think.
I turn my attention inwards and come to the awareness of the inner being that I am. And as my mind becomes aware of its thoughts, and I slow down the speed of my thoughts, I can feel this physical body of mine becoming calmer, more harmonious, and free from stress. I stay in this awareness of the inner being, and in this awareness, I come to that center point of peace that is within me. And from here, in the awareness of